earlier this month. You may remember some of these scenes here of the water here as far as the eye can see, really surrounding homes and businesses as well.
It's not just Texas that will see a dreary end to the week today's big way, although we have the hazards for severe weather. So let's look at all of it. This is a stormy forecast. It starts for you tomorrow, and we'll see it go throughout the entire day. A little more hit or miss in the first part of the day, but we get into pretty widespread thunderstorms that could drop some heavy rain and some severe hazards right through the afternoon and in through the evening. The area to watch tomorrow includes southeast Louisiana, central and southern Mississippi, parts of Alabama as well, all the way down to the Gulf Coast. It'll be what's left over from today's storms, then continuing overnight, but then resurging throughout the day with an increase in thunderstorm activity. So the parameters are there. We've got the fronts in particular. We'll be watching what happens is that warm front kind of lifts north. In that area, we're going to see a lot of moisture, so dew points will be running high. That will help add to the instability and buoyancy of the air, plus some stronger winds will help organize those thunderstorms. So we think especially along the Gulf Coast and then just north of there is where we really could see that risk for severe weather. That does include communities like Lake Charles, Baton Rouge, New Orleans, up towards Jackson and Mobile. We do have all hazards. There's a 3 on the Torcon when we look ahead to tomorrow's forecast. When there's a 3 on the Torcon, it means isolated tornadoes are possible. Tornado watches could be issued. So it'll be that kind of day as we get you through your Friday. It's not just the threat of tornadoes, though. We have winds and hail could be quite large, too. So 2-inch or size greater hail. We're actually going to see that threat start today in Texas, as Greg talked about, and then we'll see that evolve tomorrow into parts of Louisiana, including across central Louisiana into central Mississippi. Jackson may be one of the cities that has to watch out for that. But I think especially down towards the Gulf Coast, that's kind of where all of the ingredients come together the most. In the forecast, this is a model forecast. It may not look exactly like this, but we'll give you a sense of what's going on for your Friday, starting the day with some thunderstorms. And we'll see that out there with one batch coming through. Then that could bring a really big, heavy rain threat, but then that saturates the ground, and we see new thunderstorms moving out of Texas into Louisiana, Lake Charles, New Orleans, Baton Rouge, Mobile, all could be dealing with some really heavy rain come Friday night. And of course, that risk for severe weather. Alex? Going to be looking at showers coming in Baltimore. Oh, tough timing. Your forecast is for Friday night into Saturday, and Saturday night with some shower chances. Now, it does look like earlier in the day is wetter than later, but still rain is around, and it's been a wet stretch. This is how much we've had over the past 7 days here across the Northeast, Southeast Connecticut, Central Pennsylvania, Southern Virginia, Indianapolis area. So many pockets of more than 3 or 4, even 5 inches of rainfall just in the past week, and we're about to get more. So we are finding showers this morning out there across Wisconsin. Showers have been really steady out here with that east wind coming in to southeastern New England. What a yucky day in Boston and down through Providence. We've got showers moving to northern Connecticut too. Hartford, you're getting rain this morning. This shower activity here into Wisconsin has been moving along, but still slowly. And so we've got showers out there across central Wisconsin. Dry at the moment in Minneapolis and Fargo, dry into Green Bay for now. But this front is going to be a weather maker. We'll watch for that today, bringing some showers into Iowa and Illinois. That'll be marching east as a rainmaker. Also, that low pressure that's out there, it's going to stick around for a little bit longer, but it does move out. But then it gets replaced by the front and all the weather that it brings getting into your weekend. So showers here up and down the eastern seaboard as we get you into your Saturday. Alex.
Well, Florida, thinking about before even purchasing a home, what's the landscape like and what are the opportunities for potential flooding?
Yeah, no doubt. And that, of course, factors into whether you need to buy flood insurance, et cetera. Something you should do right now, kind of leading into hurricane season, is looking at that. We're going to talk more about it today on the show here. You can vote in our poll and send your comments, any pics or video with us using the hashtag YesTV.
16.
Beautiful water. I mean, when you look at that scene, like, yes, take me there. But then you think about it, it's like, oh, it felt like 1:15 yesterday afternoon. We do have a couple thunderstorms in the area. You can see around Fort Myers a few showers, some of them moving all the way across to the East Coast too. Now, they're very few and far between. There's not a lot. It's a weak front that's pressing down. So it's possible we get into a few more thunderstorms today, but they're not going to be as widespread and prolific as we had yesterday across the central part of the peninsula. But still, there's a chance. This is a look at the forecast model going through this afternoon. Scattered showers out there, but you notice it's not like one big batch pushing their way in like we saw it yesterday. And it's hard to see how we're going to get a lot down towards Key West or even Miami today. It's just so hot and humid, and with that stronger west wind kind of pushing things along, you don't even really get the sea breeze getting a chance to get going. But here in Key West, 115 yesterday, all-time heat index from June 1985. So you tied that, and remember the last time that was set was June, so it's May. So yeah, we are certainly well ahead of schedule for this heat and humidity. We could see some more records today when it comes to actual temperatures. Tallahassee going to 93. That's close to the record of 95. West Palm close. Key West close. 89 the forecast. 90 the record to beat. And the same thing in Miami. We're just 1 degree away from that record high temperature. Alex, here the rainy season is here. The heat is on, and we do have an extreme heat risk today in South Florida. So be safe out there with the heat. Well, so let's look at that and the risk of rainfall that we're going to have. A lot of rain is coming our way from Texas into Louisiana, even Mississippi and Alabama. This is the rain still to come through Saturday, where we could see isolated areas of 3 to 5+ inches of rainfall. Where we get training and where we get storms that just sit there could really add up quite a bit here. I'm looking in particular, this is where the air is most saturated. It seems like up here across portions of northern Louisiana, eastern Texas too. And this zone, watching through tomorrow morning especially, has the high risk of flooding. High risk days are very critical here. There's not many of them every year, and so on these days here, almost always, this is where we see a lot of damage, the potential for loss of life. We've got areas from Huntsville, Texas, where we've been dealing with river flooding. We're going to expand that over towards Lufkin and Jasper, and then into Louisiana. Again, the atmosphere just so very saturated across this area. We've had more than 20 inches of rain in a few isolated areas here over the past 2 weeks here, and many spots, this is widespread, have had 10, 12, 15 inches of rainfall, and that's why the river gauges are still running high. We've got many spots in moderate flooding, still some in major flooding down here, and we are going to have to watch any additional rainfall that comes into this basin. Now, at the moment, we've got rain and thunderstorms out there moving across northern Texas, Fort Worth, side of town getting worse than Dallas right now, but it's moving in. The storms actually extend down towards San Angelo. You see thunderstorms that extend up 35 all the way to Oklahoma City, and we do have a flash flood warning over here well west of Oklahoma City and south of the interstate, but still this is one spot where we could be dealing with some water covering roadways. This is a hazard you got to be ready for in the next 2 to 3 days because of how much rain we've got. This includes parts of Cato and Canadian counties. It does include Highway 281 and around the Binger area. Be cautious traveling out here this morning. How does the head of the National Hurricane Center prepare for hurricanes?
To find out, we went straight to the top. Here's NHC Director Dr. Michael Brennan with some simple advice that you can use right now.
So we're helping you get ready for hurricane season ahead of it actually beginning. And today we want to talk about one of the hazards that occur with hurricanes, which is actually tornadoes.
Yeah, one of those risks that we certainly face with these systems. We see it a lot when they drive on in. So you got to be prepared for that here. Generally associated with the supercells that kind of rotate around in the sort of bands of these tropical cyclones as they move ashore. But even outside of that, again, some of those the outer bands well away from the center, you can be dealing with these tornadic supercells.
It can happen well out ahead of a landfall, actually, because it's those outer bands, usually in the right front quadrant, that may have some rotating storms. A lot of times they start as waterspouts and then move on shore as tornadoes.
Tend to be weak or short-lived. I always hate to say weak when it comes to tornadoes, but when it comes to the scale, they'll be on the lower end of the scale generally, and they tend to be short-lived. So the warnings are very quick. They're right on you, and then they're gone. So it's tough to warn, but you got to prepare for it and be ready to get into your safe zone immediately when those warnings do come out. You mentioned it being common in the right front quadrant of these systems. Of course, land interaction playing a big role in that.
All right, so we wanted to talk more about just how strong these typical tornadoes are. You look at most of them being either F0, EF0, 49% of them, EF1s, 32%, very few up at that stronger category of EF4 and 0% at EF5.
Yeah, so there you go. You get to see the strengths tend to be, again, on the lower end of that scale. Now, when it comes to the seasons here for us, of course, average first date of dealing with a tropical storm in the Atlantic, it is June 20th, so still got some time with that, at least to get to the average date. Hurricane is August 11th, and the major hurricane, September 1st. So, yes, the season begins, in 2 weeks, I guess now, June 1st. You can, of course, have things happen before that, but on average, these are kind of the dates that we look for things.
So we have some time to prepare because there is nothing imminent right now in the Atlantic side here. That makes it a good time actually to prepare. And speaking of preparing, that is what we're talking about today in our walking through the water. The high water, she was kind of like trying to find the low spots.
We all have our tricks.
We all have our tricks. That's why I always wear flip-flops on wet days, though. I don't want to get my shoes all wet. And shorts instead of pants.
When you first said that, I was like, flip-flops? But it makes perfect sense. You don't want your nice shoes getting all soggy.
And I never like to wear pants. I wear shorts, a skirt, whatever, on a rainy day. I don't want to get the pants wet. See? All right. Well, welcome back, everyone. Thanks for getting your day going with us as we help you plan for the big events in your neighborhood.
Yeah, the Weather Channel has you covered here from coast to coast. Dr. Postel, he's here as well, going to help us break down what is fueling severe threats across the plains, as well as into the deep south. Look at all these storm areas that are under that thunderstorm threat here across Texas into Louisiana.
There's some big hazards out here with this, too. Heavy rain, of course, but also we could have large hail, we could have damaging winds, and we could have tornadoes. Now, the heavy rain and storms won't help crews trying to contain an oil spill in the water around Galveston. A tugboat hit a bridge heading to Pelican Island. Thankfully, no one was hurt.
Ooh, well, that rain, though, is now headed to the same areas hit hard by flooding earlier this month. You may remember some of these scenes here. Look at all the water. I mean, just surrounding homes and businesses.
Yeah, so it's an area that we're really going to have to watch for flooding today, and it's not just Texas that we'll see our way. Flooding may be one of them when you see how much rain is coming in. We've got a lengthy time frame of that here for you tomorrow with storms hit or miss through the first part of the day, but really ramping up through the second part, and we could see some heavier rainfall rates coming in, and that could drive some flash flooding. We've got all the hazards at play here with damaging winds, hail, and there's an isolated tornado risk as well. We don't have as many ingredients as we have today in Texas, but we have enough, and we do have that risk area from Louisiana into Mississippi and Alabama. So let's keep an eye on as the low pressure tracks up into Arkansas. South of there, we'll have the ingredients building, and I think most importantly when it comes to the severe risk for wind and hail and for tornadoes is that we're going to have some increasing winds aloft that will help organize storms and give them just that little extra oomph to allow that severe weather to form. Some of the instability will be hugging the coast a little bit more, so further to the south. So where we see the intersection of all these ingredients is where we have the most likely spot for severe weather. We're going to watch that risk here into southeast Louisiana, southern Mississippi, even parts of Alabama with a 3 on the Torcon. On a day when there's a 3, it means that isolated tornadoes are possible. Tornado watches could be issued. And you should expect thunderstorms. And again, severe weather is possible. For tomorrow, hail is actually a bigger risk, too. We've got a zone that could see 2-inch or greater size hail, watching in particular from eastern Louisiana into parts of Mississippi, including around Jackson. So we'll watch for that threat, too. Here's a look at how it might appear on the radar as we get into your Friday morning. So this is early in the morning, about 4 a.m., and we've got thunderstorms that will be moving through the Gulf Coast, dropping some heavy rainfall. That sets the stage for what's to come in throughout the day on Friday. So this is what we're worried about. This goes through southeastern Texas, Houston, then Lake Charles, with storms coming in here through the afternoon, continuing through the evening, New Orleans, Mobile, etc. We'll be looking at thunderstorms, bringing that risk for severe weather and dropping more heavy rain on top of an area that is already saturated. So we are concerned about that part of the risks as well. Saturday does include the chance for some storms extending up through Alabama, Georgia, including the Atlanta area. I'm personally looking at this forecast for a tailgate for the Kenny Chesney show there at Mercedes-Benz. We may have some thunderstorms that you have to contend with, and there'll be some rain that stretches all the way up here into the Carolinas as well. Alex. Now, both of these spots looking pretty good out there, but we've got some rain coming in and showers are on the move. For Baltimore, getting into your weekend, Saturday looks like a tough one. We do have rain around throughout the day. It actually comes in on Friday night, sticks around on Saturday, and even a few showers lingering into Saturday night here. This seems like the story we keep on telling in the Northeast. Rain around, and this is the past 7 days. Everyone's gotten at least something, some spots even more. The brighter colors, where you see some of the yellow, that's where we've had pockets of 3 to 5 inches of rainfall. You see that across Illinois into, central Indiana, including around Indianapolis, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, Rhode Island, down through Virginia. Many spots, very widespread, and we've got more widespread rain coming back again. Now this morning, it's here. This coastal low is making it an awful morning for you here around Boston and Providence and around Hartford and Connecticut. Worcester not looking any better. It's just the east wind, the clouds, the rain, all of it. But then we've got a front that's pressing east that will be bringing us some showers through parts of the Midwest today, and that spreads getting into the end of the week. Rain right now in Boston. It's not just raining, it's windy. Winds are gusting 25 miles per hour there. Out towards Nantucket, gusting to 35 miles per hour. I know you're thinking about that Florida forecast, and you're thinking, oh boy, I heard it's hot and humid down there. Maybe I want some of that. You might, considering the weather you're dealing with. We have a front that's on the move through Minnesota and Iowa. Out ahead of it, a few showers. There'll be a few more later today with the front moving east, getting in through the end of the week and the weekend. That'll press showers on through the Ohio Valley and the Great Lakes states. We'll have showers in Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and Maryland. As we talked about Pimlico there, we've got some showers coming in as we look ahead for the weekend, and just the clouds sticking around, going to make it kind of gloomy out there. We have the rain on the move getting into your Saturday and Sunday there again through the north and east. Well, Florida tubing, I couldn't see exactly what they were doing. But let's look and see if there's any weather to interrupt your plans. Now, Keys look great right now. There are some thunderstorms that have been moving right here from Fort Myers points eastward. These around Fort Myers have actually expanded a little more. They've grown a little taller in the sky. There's a little greater coverage at the moment, but that's really the only game in town. Everything else is very light, and we aren't seeing any severe thunderstorm warnings right now. The Bahamas, on the other hand, you guys are not having a good start to your day with a lot of thunderstorms over the northern Bahamas. But let's look at the forecast today. We've got some of those pop-up showers and storms. Still getting that flow from west to east. That's going to be the predominant way that our showers kind of move in. We'll see very isolated activity through the afternoon. I think because we have the stronger flow out there, these westerly winds, we're not really going to see those sea breeze thunderstorms pop up, which sometimes that can really help you out and cool you down, right? It's not going to be the case today. It's more heat than anything else. And temperatures are again soaring to summer-like levels. Tallahassee going to 93, West Palm Beach 92, Key West 89, Miami 94. These are all close to record-breaking temperatures for today. And because the temperatures are so high and because the dew points are also so high, we've got a extreme heat risk for today in southeast Florida. Now, yes, we get these kind of temperatures in the summertime, and it gets hot and humid, right? But this is early. This is early in the season, and that's kind of some of the background information that drives this heat risk. When you have unusual weather, especially when you have unusual heat like this, it can make a bigger heat risk. We've got the feels like going up above the century mark, 102 in Miami, 103 in West Palm, Fort Lauderdale. I was checking your observations, and at 9:30 this morning, it felt like 102 degrees. Alex, it's come down to about 100 now, but still, I mean, 9:30 in the morning? Feels like 102.
Yeah, that's where I don't even leave the house.
So with the rain moving there, we could see more flooding. It's been a month already with numerous flood issues here. And this is what's to come as we get you through Saturday. Rainfall very widespread, 2 to 3 inches, eastern Texas, through Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama. And there will be pockets of 3 to 5 inches. You know, it's already raining this morning around the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. We could get some heavy rain out of that. This zone from Lufkin to Alexandria, I'm especially concerned about. The atmosphere is just so saturated here. And then there'll likely be pockets of maybe more than 3 to 5 inches plus. You know how that goes. Sometimes there's storms that just sit there and dump heavy rain and big rainfall rates, and that can lead to flooding. There's a high risk today of flooding from Huntsville, Texas, nudging into Louisiana. That includes Lufkin and Jasper. These high-risk days are not issued that often. You need to really take them seriously. It's when a large percentage of flood damages and flood deaths happen on the high-risk days. A contributing factor is that, yes, we've got heavy rain coming in, but we've had a lot of rain already. Over the past 2 weeks, we've had a widespread 10 to 12 to 15 inches of rainfall. That's the hot pink here. And there are isolated areas that got more than 20 inches of rain. We still have river gauges that are running high, especially watching along the Trinity River, Liberty, Texas, one of the spots. Even in Huntsville, Texas, though, we still have some minor flooding being reported there. And so the East Fork of the San Jacinto is also another one to watch. And numerous spots out there that are running high. And so any additional rainfall could push them even higher. So we need to watch for that risk when it comes to flooding. Street flooding also a concern. I'm watching that now into a few spots here. One in Oklahoma. We talked about that last hour. But now south of Interstate 20, you're looking west of 35. You're looking at an area of rainfall that has just been sitting here with some bigger rates. And so we do have a flash flood warning for parts of Erath and Hood counties, including around Stephenville and Oak Trail Shores. We're watching this rainfall continue to track through Fort Worth as it has, but now it's in Dallas. And so both sides of the Metroplex are just soaked this morning. Thought about how does the National Hurricane Center prepare for hurricanes?
Well, to find out, we went straight to the top. Here's NHC Director Dr. Michael Brennan with some simple advice that you can use right now.
Well, and that includes for all kinds of hazards that can happen with hurricanes. And, getting you ready for hurricane season, we've been looking at all the different ways that hurricanes pose risks. And today we want to talk about tornadoes with hurricanes.
Yes, it is a thing. We see it a lot with these tropical cyclones as they're making their way ashore, onshore. They can spawn these tornadoes here. And so mostly associated with supercells kind of in the bands that roll around these tropical cyclones here. And again, as they get closer and closer to land. But again, in some of those outer bands, you can get some of those tornadoes to spin up.
Yeah, well out in advance of when you get landfall. Many are weak and short-lived, but they still do damage. And they're common in that right front quadrant of the landfall here. And it has to do with the forward motion and the way the circulation goes around the hurricane. Land interaction plays a role as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So all those come into play. You mentioned how, again, when it comes to how strong these things are, here's a look, basically going back to 1950, a measurement of the tornado ratings associated with these tropical cyclones. Vast majority end up being in the EF0, EF1 category, and then you start to get to EF2. But for the most part, that really drops off. So it just gives you a sense that, yes, they tend to be on the lower end of the scale, but it's still on the scale, and they can certainly cause and produce damage.
And they usually spin up pretty quickly. There's often not a long lead time with these kind of tornadoes in a tropical setting. So, when it comes down to preparing, you always need to be prepared for severe weather. And when you got a tropical system here approaching land here, you certainly need to be ready for this particular risk. Now, just so you know where we are in the season, the official start is June the 1st. Typically, you get your first tropical storm June the 20th, first hurricane August 11th, but that's just based on average. It can happen at any time.
Well, don't forget, let you know what's going on there at the airports as well as on the roads here for this Thursday. And as we look at where things stand here for us right now for the hubs across the country, all seems to be shaping up well, the exception down into Texas, Dallas right now.
Boy, we've got some delays in Dallas. How long are these delays?
They are approaching 3 hours, the ground delays
goodness.
in place. So, yeah, those flights trying to come in, it's not happening, averaging 3 hours.
Yeah, so we're going to keep an eye throughout the day there. All the airports in the Dallas area, also the Houston airport, San Antonio, Austin could see some delays. Also Chicago by the day's end, we may get to some delays. And Boston, so far so good.
Yeah.
But the weather's not good.
Yeah, we'll watch out there. In fact, I think LaGuardia is having some slight delays thanks to some low ceilings showing up there. But here into the middle of the country is going to be most active with showers and thunderstorms. Travel along 35, 45, 20, even a bit of 10. Could be tough at times as we head through the day. Rounds of storms with heavy rain and potential for some severe in there as well.
Well, you can stay weather aware on the roadway.